I'm excited to be headed to San Diego on November 4th and 5th this year for the ERE Recruiting Innovation Summit. This event always brings together the best in talent acquisition, recruiting leaders, HR executives, HR tech, people that are really shaping where this industry is going. It's more than just a pitch fest. I mean, this is where actual learning comes in. They've been around for 30 years. It's a great event at San Diego in November. And you're going to have some excellent speakers, demonstrations. We have pin.com there. Joel Loudry will be there. You'll have the team from ERE there, Jim Stroud. These are people that have been shaping the industry this decade and really where it's going in terms of AI and the blend with AI and recruiters and all that good stuff. I went in April this year and it was a transformative experience. We had a great time with Digital Recruiter booth and speaking and just people learning about automation and content and AI tools. It was just really cool event. So I'll be an official content partner representing Digital Recruiter. So we're going to be capturing videos, doing man on the street, interviewing the speakers, the sponsors, really getting a pulse on the action. So if you're in talent acquisition, if you're agency recruiter, this is the place to be on November 4th and 5th. Go meet your peers in person, learn from them. There's virtual tickets, there's in-person events. It's an awesome time. And so please enjoy our ERE podcast series so it gets you a glimpse of all the people that are going to be at ERE, and we'd love to see you there. All right, welcome to our latest episode in the ERE Recruiting Innovation Summit podcast series. Again, I'm your host, Clark Wilcox, founder of Digital Recruiter, and now I have the privilege of being joined by one of the three leaders for this year's Source Hackathon, which is probably like the flagship event, seminar thing. I know it's the piece that Josh Jones loves the absolute most about ERE and the summits. And so I got one of those people that's going to be up on stage. Michael Vroman, he is the senior executive talent acquisition researcher at Equinix, and it's the world's one of the world's biggest digital infrastructure companies. He's been at Uni Point Health, Maxar Technologies, and Macy's. He's a U.S. Army veteran. He's doing his master's right now. I mean, he's doing it all right now, going to FC Cincinnati games. So, Michael, appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, no, happy to be here. I'm super excited about the event, and when this opportunity came up, I couldn't refuse.
Yeah, it's a fun event, and now you've been virtual, so this is your first time actually in person, right?
Yeah,
At
that's
going to the
correct.
summit. Why go in person now?
I mean, I'm at a different point in my career. I think it's an exciting time, combining the different ERE events into one and seeing kind of what that looks like in person. I always love the virtual SourceCon events. They were a blast to attend. But I think there's just something to be said about being able to have something tangible in front of you, that you can touch and feel and smell and experience that excitement with other people.
Yeah, it really is kind of irreplaceable, and virtual is amazing. And it's been awesome what Zoom and Teams and Google, all
Mhm.
that stuff is being able to do for the industry and for work and everything in general. But I like you, I made an effort this year to start going to stuff more in person, and it's just been it revitalizes you, it invigorates you. You can learn kind of what different people are doing because we kind of have been in our bubbles in some way, shape, or form. It could be work bubbles, life bubbles, and all that. And so much has evolved the last few years. I mean, I was joking with someone yesterday. I'm like, 2018 feels like it was 2 years ago. Like, how is it 7 years ago? And it's rapid. And if you lose that in-person interaction, especially with some of the work stuff and what's been going on in recruiting, like that, it's been amazing to me. I get to talk to someone like you that's more on the kind of the corporate internal side, and I have less exposure to that. And we exchange notes of like, hey, this is kind of similar to what we're doing, or have you seen
Mhm.
this and have you seen that? Because you have different reasons to use certain tools and strategies, and I have different incentives to use other ones, and we kind of see where the overlap is. It can be very validating. Kind of obviously you can kind of be a sponge. So I'm with you. There's just something different about making that jump. So if you're listening to this and haven't made that jump, let me and Michael be your inspiration. If not this event, then the next one. Because if you're like us in Ohio, San Diego in November is tough to turn down. So when you talk to the ERE team about being at the hackathon, obviously it means that you got some pretty solid chops as a sourcer. So why don't you kind of dig in and maybe give us a little bit of background, kind of how you kind of got here, how you got to be on the panel at Source Hackathon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean it could be a long story or short story.
yeah, you pick.
The middle part is growing up, I was always interested in like vintage cars.
Yeah.
specifically vintage European cars like Audis and Volkswagens, and had some friends that had some really cool cars, and I would always try to find them parts and stuff, or like link them up with someone who's maybe parting a car out because once they get so old, it's hard to find parts. They stop making repair and
Yeah.
replacement parts. So that's kind of where I started getting my sourcing jobs, is like searching the internet, kind of getting that interest in being able to find the unfindable, right? The things that are darn near impossible to find. Ended up doing a few years in the army. Got out, went to school, and I thought I wanted to get in recruiting. My dad works in recruiting. He's a executive recruiter right now. That has a little bit more focus on military veterans. He's had a long career kind of focusing in that space. Um, it was exciting. It was like, I get to talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Like I get to help people. And so I started working at a company called Recruit Military, and that's where we got to help other companies and education institutions connect with veterans. Got I guess, my feet wet in recruiting there, supporting recruiting teams, helping them build out search strategies for veterans. That's where I started getting my Boolean chops, right? Learning how to do the ands, the ors, the ifs. Within the they have their own custom database. I'm not sure what it looks like nowadays, but within that, and then I started over at Macy's, and uh, very low level, high volume sourcing type of work there, doing some really cool process work in just kind of building out email campaign strategies and exciting things there, which was at the time I was like, oh, this is weird, but now I look back, I'm like, that was actually really cool stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like it was really innovative what I was working on. Collating data from 5 different sources and building out cohesive email strategies. But the sourcing aspect came when I went from Macy's to Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. That's where I started working with Greg Hawkes, and he was the one that encouraged me to start writing for SourceCon. I wrote my first article for SourceCon, I think, within 2 months of me working with him, because he just kept encouraging me to do it, and it was a very um, kind of scary but exciting experience of like putting to paper what I do,
Yeah.
or the ideas that are in my head. And the reason he did that is because within the first couple of weeks of working with him, I exposed him to a tool that he had never heard of, and he still talks about that to this day, which is usphonebook.com. Simple tool that
Yeah.
like a lot of people know about it. I think some people overlook it, but um, it just impressed me. He's like, hey, you should really write about these tools that you're finding and the stuff that you're doing, and it just kind of went from there. And through that relationship with Greg, I met Erin Matthew. Her and I both worked together at Maxar. She was actually, the one that introduced me to that opportunity. It was kind of a joke in passing where I messaged her. I was like, "Hey, I saw you're starting at this cool company. If you guys are still looking, I might be open." And sure enough, they still had some openings, and they brought me over. Did some really cool work there. They do the company split and is different under different names now, but space technology, so satellites and space hardware and geospatial intelligence, a lot of software work there. Getting into like the really gritty sourcing stuff
Yeah.
there.
I love it. And I like even how you started with just being passionate about the cars and kind of finding things that were hard to find. It reminds me of my story when I wanted to get into working college or pro football. I think back in 2008, 2009, I like found like I was like, how do I get people's contact information? And this was before I
Mm,
knew what recruiting was or anything else, but like I found this like obscure database. I think I paid like $50 for like contact information for like all like the video coordinators for pro and NFL. And like I just emailed, I BCC'd every single one of them, my resume and everything else. And I got like 15 job offers from it. Now, most of them were unpaid internships because it's college and pro
yeah.
football. But a few were paid, and I followed back up. I called on it, but like that, it's kind of like there's something intuitive there, right? That I've found
Mm,
from, and I'm not a Boolean expert or anything else. I definitely rely on AI for a lot of my Boolean brush up skills when I need to use it or teach it. But there is something about that, just that knack for like finding something that might be hard to find and kind of the fun in that challenge that I see like over and over. And it typically comes from like either a different passion. I feel like there's a lot of like millennials, like that early internet, that 2000s and all that, where it wasn't as cut and dry as things are now. It's just like you kind of,
mm.
the illegal, downloading songs and stuff like that, right? Like
I
all
never
those
partook
tools.
in any of that.
Oh
No,
yeah, so
never
sorry.
did
No, my
that.
friends did all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just used, I listened to their house. But anyways, it is. It's just like I see that overlap, that kind of like what threads the needle amongst people I see kind of sourcing now in that career.
Mm.
So it's interesting. Have you seen kind of the sourcing? What's changed and what's kind of stayed the same in sourcing since like you started?
The fundamentals are the same. I
Yeah.
mean, just having strong knowledge of Boolean logic, understanding how to nest your statements, how to, you know, kind of process a sourcing problem, right? So for me, it's, you know, I might get a role and I've never worked on it before, right? So the first thing I do is nowadays I use AI. I'm like, hey, I jump over Perplexity. Explain this role to me in the top 5 companies in the world. Like, what are they doing in these roles? Um, because then I might get some statements or some different titles variations that are going to help me kind of build out a search strategy and understand what keys and clues to look for when I'm reviewing profiles.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big difference is there are tools like that enable us a lot better nowadays than we had 10 years ago when I first really started in this career path. um, but outside of that, yeah, the fundamentals are the same. I mean, just understanding Boolean logic, understanding how to process information, how to structure your searches, and how to approach them in an organized way.
The What do you do now that you're leveraging AI? You can right. The process is quicker to get to kind of like the results that you were trying to
It
get to before.
it can be.
Uh, Excuse me. Correct. It can be right, but and so I think that in theory, right? Do you find yourself? I guess I'll ask. I won't assume. Do you find yourself kind of being able to save time, or I guess like kind of how much time do you feel like you're able to save now versus maybe before, like a few years ago, kind of in leveraging AI?
I would say instead of saving time, I'm probably spending about the same amount of time on the same tasks,
Okay.
but I'm able to go deeper,
Yeah.
right? Because instead of just understanding the roles at a surface level or even just below surface level, I can really dig a lot deeper into the data and have a better understanding of the market and not be conducting 50 million Google searches to find out what this company is doing and what this one's doing because they all use different titles and terminology and language. It helps kind of bring all that into one source, so instead of spending, yeah, I guess it does kind of, you could say it does speed me up, but, it just, again, allows me to go deeper, I guess, quicker.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I think in a sense you are kind of you're saving the time it takes to kind of get that knowledge, right, or kind of
Mhm.
get there. And if you can do that, like that compounding effect, right, and maybe it is more time, right, like the not the surface level sourcing, but the what you would have gone to before, right, that gets there quicker. But you're still spending the same time sourcing. But yet, to your point,
Mhm.
it's a lot more. So ideally, you get to the result quicker in a
Yeah.
sense, right? And if you could do that over and over again, it's kind of where the compounding effect is. And I think that's where I've seen people be impacted is the things, it's not that you're necessarily trying to work less, but you're getting further in your work
Mhm.
by leveraging it. And that's where I'm just seeing people leverage it and just get crazy productive with the same amount of time that they were doing stuff 2 3 years ago. I think it's just interesting the way that's unfolding, and I mean even the way it picks up on Sales Navigator versus Recruiter or anything else, and kind of like the different how you do Boolean on each one and stuff like that. I mean it's amazing how quickly people are picking up on stuff
Yeah.
by
And
just having that.
and that's actually an interesting kind of use case that I use. I prefer Perplexity, but I consistently will go in and I'll ask it about a role. Hey, explain this role to me at this company or in these kind of industries, and then I'll have it create a Boolean string based off of like those titles and keywords, and I can take that and drop it into any other system. Whether I'm doing a Google X-ray search or
Yeah.
looking for PDF resumes or looking into LinkedIn or whatever platform I'm sourcing on, I can just drop that right in there and modify it as needed. So it kind of makes it a lot easier for that. Uh, but it's not something that, you can just come in off the street as not a sourcer, do that and be successful because you still have to understand the nesting logic, how to rephrase things because each system is a little bit different, like you said. So I see it really as an enabler, not really a replacement for what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Understanding the why and how to troubleshoot, because if you just copy and paste and expect it to be perfect, right, you got
Mhm.
to be able to figure out where the errors are and start to be able to troubleshoot that piece of it. I think that's where having the foundation versus, whether it's, training or studying or, I'm sure you had, mentors and people that you learned from that kind of gave you the bumpers, then you're able to kind of
Hmm.
learn from that, right? It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, but to your point, learn the fundamentals, learn the basics, and have that structure so you can be creative within that structure. But if you don't have any of that in that context, you can be spinning your wheels a lot.
Yeah.
Talk to us about hackathon. I was able to make it to the one in April. So for those that kind of don't know, what is the SourceCon hackathon, right? Like what goes in that? If you give us a little glimpse.
Yeah, so I think everybody will give you a little bit different answer. I'll kind of start by my first hackathon. I think it was back in 2020. It was the very first virtual SourceCon. Aaron, Matthew, and I had tickets. We were scheduled to go. I think it was Seattle that we were supposed to go to, and then there was all that uncertainty of like, was the world going to shut down? Were we going to be able to go? And I can't remember how close to the event it was, where they're like, "Hey, we're just going to do it virtual." But so that was my first hackathon. And it was a really interesting experience, and essentially what it is it's kind of a trivia style sorcerer challenge, right? So you're going to get presented with a question. You have to answer that question to get to the next one. And the idea is that the person who gets to the end, who answers all the questions successfully, is the hackathon grandmaster.
Mm,
Um, it used to be just a cool title, and you could brag to your friends, say, "Hey, yeah, I kicked everyone's butt," and we had a lot of fun. But now I think they offer certain like perks and benefits. I'm not sure what that looks like now, so I can't really speak to that. But I think it's evolved to a level of it's definitely something you should try to attend and try to participate in, whether you're a sorcerer or not. It's not just for sorcerers. They're probably gonna have a leg up on you if you're not strong on Boolean and kind of problem solving on internet searching. But um, you know, nowadays with AI, some of the questions might be easily solved. Who knows?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to get in there, get the laptop out, and test my chops. So it's on my to do list for sure. I fully expect to uh, not finish first, second, or third, or anywhere close to the podium. But kind of want to see like what people are doing and kind of use it to learn, because it's
Yeah,
probably the area in my game I spend the least amount of time on, just like with everything else I have going on. So it's always one of those where I'm looking to pick up from experts like yourself. Like, yeah, what are people doing? How are people leveraging all this stuff? Because I kind of innately know how I would leverage it with AI and what I've done
yeah,
there. But it's I've also kind of the sales navigator, some of the automation stuff, the filters are so good right now that I haven't had to necessarily get like that great at stuff, because you can build a really specific list, because filters alone have been incredible. But it's just, well, I tell clients, like, try everything, try Boolean, try filters, try combination. Like, that trial and error is like the fun part of sourcing. I think it's never been more fun to do to kind of do trial and error with sourcing, because there's so many ways to leverage that work now with
yep,
automation and outreach and all that. I think it's kind of made it fun again. Well, for me, I should say, it's kind of made that part fun again, because I know that there's different systems and vehicles I can use to spend that, that can leverage that research time, and all that. So all that to say that I'm excited to kind of check it out and see what the experts are doing. Yeah.
yeah. I'm excited too. I mean, developing the questions is one thing. I know we've got a challenging list this year. I'm excited to see how people approach solving these problems and these questions. It's definitely not the recruiting landscape that it was 5 years ago, my first hackathon. And we've tried to accommodate for that. We've tried to make some questions a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So don't expect it to be easy by any means, just because you have Perplexity or ChatGPT or whatever your flavor of AI
Yeah.
system is.
So I love it. You can participate virtually, obviously, or in person, which is super cool. So definitely make sure to check that out. What is, I think, one thing that you're looking forward to, say, outside of the hackathon, outside of just being in San Diego, and kind of talking to people, like anything kind of on the list on your radar that you're excited about?
Honestly, just the in-person engaging with people. I mean, there's like I'm going to butcher his name, probably Joe Lagley.
Yeah.
He's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of other personalities there that are big voices in recruiting. I'm just excited to meet these people in person and just really exchange knowledge.
Yeah.
I for anyone going to SourceCon or for RAS for the first time, I would say just go into it with an open mind. Be open about where you're at in your career, what you're looking for, and what kind of advice and information you want to exchange.
I think it's great. It's great advice. Joel is great person. That's where him and I met up for the first time in April, and just super good
Mhm.
dude. Knows his stuff. So yeah, he's one of the real ones that actually is legit in person, which is always good
Yeah,
when you find out. So put him and plenty others that are going to be super cool that are there. So I can't wait. I'm excited to check out the hackathon for the first time. Excited for us to meet, and hopefully your boys FC Cincinnati are making a good playoff run by then. And anything else that you want to leave the listeners with?
Uh, no, just really, if you haven't signed up yet, sign up now.
Yeah.
Don't miss it. You can't miss it this year. It's going to
Mhm.
be a blast. It's going to be exciting. And in San Diego in November. I mean, it's going to be beautiful weather no matter
That's it.
what.
That's it. So no matter what, it's going to be a good time. So, well, Michael, appreciate you being on here. Excited to meet you in person and check out the hackathon, man.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. And thanks for bringing me on here.
Of course, my pleasure. So, make sure to give this a like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out our other episodes in the ERA podcast series. Make sure to connect with Michael on LinkedIn if you haven't already, and of course, make sure to sign up virtually, in person, however you can make it, for the ERE Recruiting Innovation Summit on November 4th to 5th in San Diego. And until next time, y'all, happy hunting.